Alright, since my movie theater doesn't get Sicario until tomorrow, obviously I couldn't see Sicario last Saturday when I saw Everest. So instead what we saw was The Intern, and I gotta say, it was good. So The Intern stars Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. Robert De Niro plays this really upbeat and pretty optimistic, fun guy. He's a widower now and he's bored with his life. He's traveled, he's done all these different things, but he just has an empty void in his life. And so when he finds this flyer that is advertising senior citizen interns, he immediately takes action and he becomes an intern for this new startup company that's going really big. Anne Hathaway is the person that created this place, and so she's the boss. But her company is getting too big too fast, and she might not be able to handle all the stress and be able to handle everything. So among all these different stressful things, there's been suggestions that she has to hire a CEO for the company. And I think that's about all I want to say about the plot, because, hey, if you want to see it, I don't want to ruin it for you. Now this isn't going to be some critically acclaimed movie or something that's going to go for Oscars or any of that jazz. This is just a lighthearted, charming, and really good feel-good movie. And I have to say I really did enjoy The Intern. There was a lot of moments where I laughed, there was a lot of moments where I cared, and overall it is a very charming, cute, fun movie. First off, I really did enjoy Robert De Niro's performance. It's definitely very different from what I'm used to, because even in other comedies, he's still the intimidating, almost mafia-type like guy. In this one, he's more of like a soft teddy bear, you know? He's a really nice person, and he's very optimistic, he's fun, and you get a sense of why everyone really is enjoying him at work and why actually they become friends with him, because he's a very likable person. On a little side note, he might be a little bit too perfect to be human and too perfect to be our main character of this movie, but in all honesty, this is probably a movie where our main character, our main person, really isn't the main character of the story. If you consider all of the problems and all the things that have to get solved within the movie, it's mostly done through Anne Hathaway. This is just one of those movies where the person we think is the main character is just the narrator of the story, while the actual main character of the movie is Anne Hathaway, because all the problems are with her and her company. And Robert De Niro is that sort of character that is a little bit more mysterious and actually a little too perfect to be believable, that just comes along and starts getting the wheels turning on trying to fix the problems. I also enjoyed Anne Hathaway's performance. Some people were worried that she would get a little annoying, and after that first scene I was like, okay, maybe she's going to be a little too quirky and a little too weird for my taste, but she becomes a little bit more down to earth, and there's some really good performance with Anne Hathaway. Now I think the comedy in this film was really great. It's not too offensive, it's not too crude, it's not too modern, to the point where what modern comedy is doing nowadays with the crudeness and the offensiveness and all these other kind of things that do work for certain movies but don't work for others. This was a little bit more of an old school comedy, and one that was more lighthearted and all ages could understand and like. Even when it possibly leans a little bit more to the cruder comedy, it does it in a sophisticated and a more subtle way. Not to say that all the comedy in this movie is subtle, because there is some definitely over-the-top stuff, but it was nonetheless fun and entertaining. There's only a few things in this story that is keeping me from giving it maybe a 4-star. For one, there is a lot of filler in this movie, and what I mean by filler is I mean scenes that don't really pertain to the overall story or any of the character arcs, but just get put in there to add a little bit more runtime. There are several little scenes where it's added just for a little bit more comedic value, but it doesn't add to the overall story, it doesn't add to the characters, it doesn't establish anything new, it's just there. There's also at least one plot line that does nothing and actually is left hanging by the end of the movie because it's not really solved. This plot line being there's this tension between Anne Hathaway's relationship with her mother. It's never really resolved, but it is an excuse in order to cause a really, really hilarious moment in the film. And if it wasn't for the fact that the moment was just so hilarious and crazy and over the top, I would say throw the plot line out altogether because it ultimately doesn't get resolved and it's just there as filler. There's also a little thing that happens with Anne Hathaway's husband that really bothered me, and it's not the fact that it's in it, it's the fact that it was revealed really poorly. So just imagine there's a twist in the third act that really does add to the overall conflict of the story. It's focused on heavily, and it actually does add to some really decent drama. So it feels like it definitely needs to be in there. The problem is the way that the twist is revealed is so out of place, and it feels more like it's come straightly out of left field. There's no build-up to the twist, there's no foreshadowing, there's no subtle little hints that would lead you to believe that the twist could possibly happen. And it feels like a lazy twist that just comes out of nowhere just for the shock value, even though it does add to the overall story at the end of the movie. And it did bother me because I have a great admiration for twists that actually leave subtle hints throughout the movie. They're just so subtle that we don't pick it up the first time, and we'll pick it up the second time when we watch it and realize, oh, that's why this happened, and oh, that's foreshadowing. It's harder to do it so subtly that you won't notice during your first viewing, but then you notice it during your second viewing. But for this film, it didn't even feel like it tried to give hints or foreshadowing or subtle little things. It just pulls the rug out from under you and says, there's a twist! You want to know another movie that does a really bad twist in recent years? Frozen. Now, I didn't hate Frozen. I thought it was an alright movie. I would probably give it about 3 stars. But I hate the twist because it just pulls the rug out from under you without any subtle hints or any sort of foreshadowing that would make sense. You want to know 2 twists that I do appreciate this year? The Visit, which actually had some really good quality subtle hints and foreshadowing. And even though I hate this movie, but I do enjoy the twist, Goodnight Mommy. Unfortunately, the subtle hints made it really boring, and it's just not a good movie. Now, I did like some of the modernization in The Intern and how gender roles are swapped and a few other little things like that, but overall, sometimes it gets a little too heavy-handed. There's some dialogue that Anne Hathaway's character says that just feel just like forced and feel like there's a few times in the movie where she just blatantly calls out sexism in the business area and then talks about feminism and stuff, and it just feels really out of place for this movie. It's not that I think that it shouldn't be in any movie at all, it's just it comes really out of place in this type of movie. So in the end, I did enjoy The Intern. It's not perfect, it's not great, but it is a good, and I think you could have a really fun time if that's what you're looking for. The Intern for me gets 3 stars. Have you seen The Intern? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. If you haven't, what is your favorite feel-good movie of all time? And as always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.